to welcome Dr. Adedoyin to give her welcome address, and we have started. Dr. Aguru, please.
Thank you. His Excellency, Ambassador of Japan to Nigeria, Ambassador Yutaka Kukata, our keynote speakers, President Osubi Sako, President Kyoto Seika University, Kyoto, Japan, Her Excellency, Professor Sarah Mbi Eno Ayang Agbo, the African Union Commissioner for Human Resources, Science and Technology, African Union Commission, the Vice Chancellor, University of Ibadan, Professor Abel Idowu Olayinka, Grand Patron, African Association for Japanese Studies, Chairperson of African Association for Japanese Studies Board of Trustees, Professor Jide Oweye, the Vice Chancellor, Leeds City University, Professor Kabir Adeyemo, members of the press, distinguished participants, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to welcome everyone to this third virtual conference of the African Association for Japanese Studies. The initial theme for the conference this year, 2020, was environment. This was decided as a theme before the manifestation of COVID-19 and before its consequences hit the world. Apart from the diverse consequences of the pandemic, one noted that several professional associations and institutions began to call off the pre-scheduled conferences and academic meetings. And momentarily, we also did. At some point in the course of the year, we decided to initiate online conversations that centered on adapting to COVID-19 and the technical demands on the African Association for Japanese Studies WhatsApp group. We had 13 successful, robust conversations and interactive sessions between May 8th, 2020 and August 2020. This did not only give hope and courage to all of us during that period, but it began to get us prepared for living with COVID-19 and post-COVID-19. It was indeed extremely challenging planning this conference during this period, particularly because of funds and funding. But we decided it was necessary to begin to adapt to the new normal and adapt to the challenges that has come with it. I observed that as at last week, most of the conferences that were postponed globally in the course of the year are being planned virtually as conferences for 2021. And we are sure and certain that we have taken the right decision by carrying on with this conference. The COVID-19 crisis revealed a clear truth about catastrophic risks in an increasingly globalized world. This has shown that there is need for effective response as well as immediate and evidence-based preventive action at the global level. To avert future global threats, including pandemics, this conference seeks to be a part of the efforts put in place globally to create and sustain a safe and habitable environment upon which we all depend on for our health and well-being. The panels put in place at this conference therefore include history and COVID-19, government policy and environment in Japan and Africa, perspectives on COVID-19 and the pandemic, of literature and the 2020 pandemic, cybernetics, systems thinking, business intelligence, ecological systems, environment and COVID-19, innovations, interventions, multidisciplinary discourses within the pandemic, environment, climate, outlook in Africa and Japan within the 21st century, social environment, pre-COVID-19 and post-COVID-19. We also have COVID-19 Francophone and Anglophone perspectives. It is our hope that by the end of this conference, new vistas would have been thrown up and practical means of tackling the challenges that have come to be the new normal would have been found. I would like to appreciate His Excellency, Ambassador of Nigeria to Japan, Ambassador Yutaka Kikuta, our gracious keynote speakers, President Osubi Sako, President Kyoto Seika University, Kyoto, Her Excellency, Professor Sarah Mbi Eno Ayangabo, the African Union Commissioner for Human Resources, Science and Technology, African Union Commission. The Vice Chancellor of the University of Ibadan, Professor Abel Idowu-Olayinka, under whose tenure the association was born, and the entire management of the University of Ibadan that gave institutional support for the takeoff of AAJS. The Dean of the Faculty of Arts, University of Ibadan, the Head of the Department of English, Professor Ayobami Kehinde, University of Ibadan, where the association is domiciled, we appreciate you. I appreciate the Chairman of Council, Leeds City University, Professor Judy Owe, who is Chair of our Board of Trustees, the Vice Chancellor, Leeds City University, Professor Kabir Adeyemo, and the management of Leeds City University that made the second conference of AAJS a huge success in the year 2019. I'm aware that my mentors, Professor Ademola da Silva, Professor Adire Miraji Uyelade, Professor Niyo Shundari, Professor Toyin Falola are in attendance, and I thank you. I appreciate the executives and the entire members of AAJS Home and Abroad. I welcome all our participants and paper presenters once again to the third African Association for Japanese Studies Conference. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Adedoyin Guru, for that brilliant welcome address. Quickly, ladies and gentlemen, we shall move on in strict compliance with our schedule to the next item, which is the citation of Professor Usubi Sako. It will be presented. The citation will be read by Oluwafunke Brenda Ogunya of the Department of English, Florida State University. Oluwafunke, over to you, please.
Thank you very much, sir. Good morning, everyone. President Usubi Sako is professor at the Department of Liberal Arts, Faculty of Humanities at Kyoto Seika University, Japan, and was Dean of Faculty from April 2013 until March 2017. He has been serving as the president of Kyoto Seika University since April 2018. He is also affiliated to the Graduate School of Humanities and to the Graduate School of Design. Born in Mali in 1966, he went to China after graduating from high school to pursue his education in the field of architecture. He obtained his bachelor's degree from Southeast University in China. Arriving in Japan in 1991, he earned his PhD at Kyoto University's Graduate School of Engineering, Department of Architecture. He is a member of many scientific associations, such as the Architectural Institute of Japan, the Architectural Design Association of Nippon, the City Planning Institute of Japan, Japan Association for African Studies, Society for the Study of Early Modern Kyoto, International Union of Anthropological and Ethnological Sciences, Ordre des Architectes du Mali, ICOMOS Mali, ICOMOS ISCASA, ICOMOS ISEC, and many others. His research explores the relationship between society and architectural space. He has worked on housing planning, policy, and design in Mali and Japan. Recently, his main interest is community architecture, community redesign, and architecture conservation, restoration in historical sites. His most recent field trips were in Japan, China, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. His publications include Literacy and Culture of Knowledge and Contemporary African Culture Today. He has been involved in making life less cumbersome for new arrivals, helping integrate them into Japanese society. He has held social icebreakers as well as found focused study groups to have discussions. Soon enough, he was regarded in Kyoto Academic Circle as an effective leader of minorities. He joined Kyoto Seika University in 2001 and was promoted as professor in 2013. On April 1st, 2018, he was elected as the president of the university. Join me this morning as I welcome on this platform Japan's first university president from Africa, Professor Osubi Sako.
Thank you very much, Onwafunke, for that brilliant rendition. Ladies and gentlemen, we now move on to the next item on the program, which is the first keynote address by Professor Osubi Sako, who is the president Kyoto Seika University, Kyoto, Japan. His is an intimidating citation, but even more intimidating, I guess, will be the keynote you'll be giving today. But beyond that, in quote, intimidation, rest assured that everybody will be excited listening to him this morning, because his is a topic that is of interest to everyone on this platform and at this virtual conference. So Professor Sako will be giving his keynote on Japan's technology as agency in combating COVID-19. Japan's technology as agency in combating COVID-19. How do we combat, COVID-19 through technology? And now he's speaking specifically to the Japanese experience. Professor Sako, you have the floor.
Yes. Thank you very much for the introduction. And I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me to this prestigious gathering, and then which is scientific and at the same time more cultural, and also which is also considering as a kind of diplomatic role between Asia, Japan, and Africa. And of course, I'm very delighted to be among you to share my experience. I don't know if I will represent all Japan to share to talk, but I think I will go through what my university did to overcome the COVID, and also how this can be somehow useful, for other people. So first of all, I would like very briefly to introduce myself. So can I share my slide with you? Is it okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. I will share this slide. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't think I don't have the right to share actually. So can you give me the, yeah.
Yeah, we're doing that right away.
Thank you.
Now you can.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. Okay, I will go like this. Okay, so as the theme is environment, technology, and COVID, and which is very interesting because we are now talking at different level. For example, the environment. So what is the environment for us or for Japanese people? And then what kind of technology Japanese people have? And then how those technology can serve for their development or the development of the society, and also what kind of process Japan tried to deal with the COVID-19. First of all, I will try to introduce myself very quickly. I was born in Mali, and then I went to China for study. And this picture is very interesting. This is my picture when I was 8 years eight, I think 8 or 10, I don't remember. But it's very interesting. So when I was elected president of Kyoto Seika Universities, I was so shocked that the Western media tried to, promote, that election to say, oh, Japan has changed, or there is something, about Japanese society. So how in a homogeneous society like Japan, an African born can be university president? That was very funny to see. But at the same time, I don't know like what that kind of consideration came, because I think even Western countries are considering Japan as a very unique country. So I go very quickly through my profile, and which was introduced a few minutes ago. So I spent 6 years in China and almost 29 years. I am in my 30th years in Japan. So, I mean, I think this is not, oh, it's okay. Thank you. And then, so I try always to have a connection during my research between Japan, or between Japan and Africa. So this is what I'm doing as research in general. So I was working on ecological architecture, actually on environment. So how to deal with the environmental technologies, and then through Japanese technologies, and dealing with Africa. But I think that's another question we will not debate today, but I mean, that's what I was doing. So I want to introduce what I did during the COVID. But before that, I want to introduce my university to you very quickly. So as I say here, so my role as Japanese institution leader with foreign background. So how do I understand and deal with Japan in general? So my university is Kyoto Seika University. I don't know if you are very familiar with Kyoto. So we are a little bit in the north of Kyoto. So my university is dealing with three slogans. So liberal arts, global, and expression. So we think that the knowledge, science, and technology and art can change the world. We believe on that, and then we try to take that as our key word for our education. I'm sorry that I will have some Japanese language slides between my slides. So, and then that's, what we are here, writing here. So we want to change the world with art and expression, and also technologies. And this university has a very simple philosophy, a university that educates people who can change the world through expression. So it's between humanities and art education. So we have, comparing to African universities, we have very few students. We have only 3,500. And then we are now very delighted to have about 4.3% of foreign students coming from different places. So, which is also very interesting. And then we are also having a lot of programs. We will just start some programs with African universities, with Nigeria, with Senegal, and then with Benin, and also with Cameroon. So, and also we have Mali also. So this is actually what we do. So one other thing in our university is freedom and autonomy. So we are based on respecting the freedom, and also to educate students to be more autonomous. So that's like how Seika University began. And then that's something we are really taking care of. So the university for us is a place for building humanity, and then which is really, again, uh, giving student opportunities to learn and grow through embracing one other and others' differences. Okay, so I, after introducing my university, so maybe you may know about like the COVID situation in Japan. Japan is not, so we can't say that we have less cases than our neighbors, African, Asian countries. But at the same time, Japan tried to control the COVID by not, confining its people. That's something very important. So we don't confine, but at the same time, we try to, combat the COVID through people's behavior. So that's something that what is very important. So you are all familiar with Japanese studies and Japan. So I think so. What we try to do, what we did in Japan, is not to close all the, supermarket, items in the daily life, but what we try to do, we try to, make a campaign that people, can easily protect themselves, not with a lot of like institutional restriction. But at the same time, as university, what I did, I'm sorry that this is in Japanese language. I will go through a few slides in Japanese. So if you can see the small word COVID-19, so this was all the measures and the regulations and the rules my university tried to do during the COVID. So what we did first, maybe if you know Japan, the graduation ceremony is very important for Japanese people, and then the entrance examination too. So what we did first is to stop to cancel those two ceremonies. So the first thing was to avoid what we call a cluster infection. So we don't want it to put people together. And then because nobody knows very well what is really COVID-19. So how to deal with COVID-19. So as institution, my role was not really to have a case. So until now, we were dealing with 0 cases in my university. So, which is really good because we have, as I say, 3,500 students and also maybe almost 1,000 professors. But at least we are managing to deal with that. So the second thing was how to consider to have classes, to not stop classes without, student avoiding the risk. So what we did, so we tried to plan the online classes. So I think that's also everywhere. But for me, the most important thing was, as a president, is to not stop the education process. So the first thing was from the 20th of April, we start all the classes online. And as I introduced my university, we are a university with art-oriented, design-oriented, and humanities and other, majors, disciplines, which are sometimes very difficult to teach online. So that was, the first thing. A professor suffers, not the student, but the professors, how to teach. So how to have a new skill to deal with students through online, how to teach architecture through online, how to teach fashion design through online. So those things was the first thing which came to us. So that pushed us to go towards some innovation in teaching system, so which is very important. So we try to innovate the teaching style, which can be available online and in direct contact. So that's the first thing we did. The second one was to improve what we call the digital contents we have, and also the environment. So we try to support students. So that's also everywhere. We gave to each student in our school an amount of $500 to support their, environmental building. And then we try also to provide tablet, iPad to all students. And also we provide, computers to all students. So that was also one of the dealing style we try to have with our students. So for us, it was very important first to deal in a very short time with the environmental building to accommodate to a new teaching style. And then for that, we have some professors who try to develop some new, applications to teach manga, for example. We have, I want to mention that because we are the first university to have a faculty of manga in the world, and then we have a doctorate of manga, and then that's also something very, important. But professors try to teach manga through that kind of system. So that was the first thing we did. The second one, how Kyoto Seika University did. So I think we very quickly caught that maybe the COVID-19 will insist and will not disappear immediately. So do we keep the online or do we do the hybrid style? So what we try to do, we try to do the hybrid style. So we combine what we call the online and the face-to-face. But for the face-to-face, we try, our professors start to work with some mathematical programs and those things that we can have more than 400 students a day on campus, and including the bus system. All those systems were controlled by some programs that student can come to school on demand. So that's also something which was very important. So for example, you come today, tomorrow you don't come, because I mean, that was a kind of very complicated program. But people were able to deal with that very quickly. And I'm sorry, it's also in Japanese. So the last thing um, I decide, we start classes today, by the way. I decide to do all the classes directly on campus. But we still have some big classes that we have to keep online, but almost students are back on campus. So what do we do with that? So we have like, to work a lot on a lot of like a program system, because student will be in class, but I think we have a, um, I don't know if you had a chance to go through Japanese way of dealing with the COVID. So what we did is like the distanciation, to try to keep the distance. So we have to change all the classroom systems. We have to have a circulation, a ventilation system, and then we have to use also a lot of items to avoid what we call the cluster infection. So we have our own students try to develop some face shield, and then also some mask and a lot of things, just like to protect themselves. So to give you a quick conclusion about what we did, is we try to motivate students themselves to be part of this innovation. So they are not like just receiving, orders, or like that we tell them do this or do that. But the most important for us was that they can be part of this innovation and this change, and also they can protect themselves. So there is no magic behind that. So of course we need a lot of technological innovation, but at the same time, they need to be aware that this is their own problem. So on my side, I was very busy because we have to deal with all the, what Japan we say here, the open campuses, the open doors, and also try to have a lot of online system for school, to introduce the school, to try to have a kind of consultation online. So as you can see, almost, I don't know, every 2 weeks, I was like doing a new video and introducing a new system, how to deal with students. So for example, like not only a web conference, but web event, web consultations, web, whatever. I mean, we did a lot of things. So what COVID teach us in Japan here? First, about new possibilities that we were not able to reach some goals, for example, to have all students on track, and then also to give students opportunity to choose their own way of doing things. I think the online gave us that opportunity. The second thing is to have less mobility. You can stay at home, you can do through meetings, and then you can do a lot of things. So that's also thanks to the technologies that was also possible. But the worries were on, so that destroy, um, this, I can say, the social system at the same time, because as maybe Japanese people, people try people were so aware, avoiding each other, that sometimes it's difficult now to have a kind of social communication. That's my biggest problem. Even now, when I go to my office from morning to night, I don't know how many times they clean the office. I have even problem to sit on my seats, because I mean they will be cleaning maybe every 30 minutes. That's a little bit extreme for me, because we have to also learn how to live with COVID. So that's something very important. And I think it's good to have some technological solutions, but at the same time, it's good to keep some, human solution about COVID. At university, that's something we try to do. So I go through the second think we have here to finish this session. So we were talking about environment. So to deal with environment, I think Japan is one of the most advanced country on SDGs, so the Sustainable Development Goals. And I think Japanese institutions and even the government is putting a lot of, what do you say, effort on how to deal with these things. Maybe you may know that the Universal Expo uh, 2025 theme is also the SDGs. So how they try to cope with that? At the same time, they have technological solutions, and they have also a kind of like, I mean, activities beside, which is very important, because I think these both technology and activities can be some key focal point Africa and Japan can cooperate. I hope I'm part of the Expo 2025 member, organizing committee member, and I hope that we can do a lot of things through that, and then try to see how to make Japan and Africa more close. So I will not take a lot of time, but I'll try to see how, as African in Japan, we can do. I think we can be a kind of cultural facilitator between, Africa and Japan, and at the same time, we can play also this role of economical bridge. But I think the theme today, as we are mentioning about environment, it's very important to have technological achievement, but at the same time, it's very important to have a human involvement. That's the same as COVID. So I hope we can have a great conference, and I would like to leave some time for questions if there are, and then I can complete this key address, and by thank again the organizers, and also Dr. Aguru, to uh, give me this opportunity to talk to people in Africa who are also interested in Japan as I do. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much. You'll all agree with me that that was indeed exciting, and we were thrilled to listen to the Japanese perspective on how to adopt technology or technological agency in combating COVID-19. The professor, in his keynote address, has raised a number of challenging questions, which if we address in Africa especially, but also in the rest of the world, we will be able to put the 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 trauma of the present COVID-19 challenges behind us. One question which for me is particularly germane is how do you control COVID-19 pandemic without locking down? That is a Japanese model. Locking down was so popular around the world, but now we got to know Japan did not necessarily lock down, yet it was able to find a way of controlling the pandemic in such a way that using the University of Kyoto as a unit of analysis right until now, up until now, the university is still dealing with 0 cases. Thank you very much for that. But again, it is also about, as the conference is, environment. And the professor was able to show us how the university environment uh, calls for redesigning, reframing, to cope in the era of COVID-19. How do we reduce physical interaction? How does teaching how do teaching and learning go on um, without any negative impact on learners in particular? So the bursaries that facilitated 100% access to the learning equipment for students is particularly, commendable, and I think it's worth emulating, particularly in this part of the world. And so, development of new softwares and all that, and of course, not leaving out how, in spite of the challenges, we can deploy technology to also address the sustainable development goals. Once again, Professor Sako, we would like to thank you. And
Thank you very
like you
much.
have said, I guess we will move on to the questions immediately. And thank you also for keeping to time. And let
Thank you.
those asking questions um, try as much as possible to be brief. I guess the questions should just go to the chats and then the professor can respond. Is that fine?
Yes, no problem.
It's okay.
Thank you.
So you have the floor, Professor. I'm sure some questions have come to you.
Okay, let me check the chat. They are greetings, not questions yet.
Oh,
But
yes. Okay, there may be other updates or additions.
okay, okay, no problem. Okay, to add something very quickly, as you were mentioning, uh, my university has been very active in the environmental movement, protection, philosophy, and all those things. So something which was very important to us is, as I say, a kind of like a daily dealing with those problems. So how, the human activities can change the environment. So how do we protect environment first by our own activity and then move to technical solutions? So that's something we try to deal with, and then which is also very important. So as you were mentioning, so when you go to even my field, architecture, we try to, in Japan, to have much more passive solutions first, and then we move to what we can call the technology solutions. So the technical solutions are not the only solution to deal with the environment and also to deal with COVID. So you have like this kind of like, the education is very important, and the education on human behavior is really the most important now to deal with those kind of, infections and all those things. Okay, I have one question here that I can see, or two even. Um, Okay, this is to help in facilitating the procurement supply of equipment to universities in Africa. So very soon, Kyoto Seika University wanted to open a liaison office in Africa, so which can be a very important base to deal with African universities. And one other thing, from this year, we open what we call a center of a research center for Asia and African relations. So which can be very interesting for even, I think, a lot of people in this session. So we are trying to have much more, common, and what do you say, collaborative research, education, and all those things with universities. So we signed agreement with one of the, what do you say, Nigerian universities. We are looking for more universities in that sense. And I think um, something is very important. So do the supplying is important, or we try to develop things together. So for me, we can supply things, but that's not the most important. But I think Japanese, I want more Japanese students to learn from our African students, and our African students to come in exchange to learn from for their Japanese counterpart. And that's also the same as for professors too. So, and the COVID without confining. Yeah. So what we did, so that's really, I think, was really based on Japanese education actually, which is also very interesting, because I think Japanese people there don't care wearing mask. They used to wear mask in their daily life, and then they use when they come to, I mean, they come back home or they go to somewhere they wash their hands. I think their, I mean, daily behavior help a lot to really overcome the COVID without being confining. And then they are very good in taking the social distances. That's also people. If you tell them take social distances, you will have problem to bring them back in the social distance, to break the social distance. So I think that's also help us a lot. But so for example, in our classes, we took what we call the 1 meter, and also that's behind before distances, and they respect that very much. So that's also something which is really helping us. And then I think that's something we are doing. So let me close this. Yeah. And then again, I think for Japanese, I mean, a society. So they were like a kind of preset behavior, which really help us to overcome this moment. So it's not done yet because we are still dealing with COVID. And then we have now 100% of our students on campus. So we want to see what will go on, or, I mean, with that new system. But what Japan say, they call it new way of life with COVID. So we are trying to develop a lot of behaviors. We have a lot of guidelines, but people are well educated to really respect what we tell them, and then to really do what is really good for individual, to not disturb all the group or society. Thank you. And then the equipment are needed. Mhm. Yes, but it's very important also to know what equipment is needed in this case, because I think with COVID, even you see with European countries, so people try to have a lot of things, but is there are effective to combat or to overcome the COVID? So in Japan, so we try to do a lot of things based on research result. So we have a lot of research institutions which also gave us, we have like what we call a regular meeting with scientific. So they come with data, and then they are telling us, if you use this maybe reduce only 1%, so don't put your money in this or don't buy this. So that was something very important for us, the regular advisors on campus. And then that was within a network. So by the way, I'm living in Kyoto, and in Kyoto we have almost 40 universities, and we are part of the same consortium. And in that consortium, we have like, advisors and a regular meeting with other universities to share experiences. So that was something very important. And then also to see directly what is effective, what is not effective. So we are still going through those kind of experiments, but those are the things which help us actually to overcome the moment. So what is the other questions? I think I went through more questions, but if there are any other question. Okay. Okay. So does culture matters? Yes, somehow, because even in Japan, we have that problem. Um, some of my African fellows sometimes are saying that Japan has a lot of regulations, a lot of rules, but for Japanese people, those rules are really normal. So I think the education or the culture is very important because, for example, someone who is really used to a close distance, a close distanciation, and then you force that person to not even see their own families, I think sometimes that's shocked. So that's something which really happened to a lot of people. So I think in our cases, actually, so I didn't hear that we have a lot of foreign, students being affected. But there are some universities after, the state of emergency, because even under the state of emergency, Japan's, what do you say, businesses were half opened. But now a lot of foreigners start to hang out. So that's became a source of what we call the cluster infection. So we try to tell them, and some of them don't believe that COVID exists. And then we have a lot of fellows that you meet them, they don't wear masks. So you really don't know what is good, what is bad. But I think it's very important to respect some rules when you are in a society, because the infection is not concerning only you, but to all people around you. So that's now our worries, that people are really now hanging out. They were stressing themselves to stay at home. They want to overcome, in a very drastic way. I think we are still urging people to stay at home and then, to wait, to be more patient, but which is sometimes also human. I can understand, their feeling of being, so stressed with the COVID. So what other question? Yes, institutions are open now to foreign students. So from the 1st of October, Japanese government, left the, what do you say, the restriction on visa for students, and then I think for business people. So now researchers, students, they can come to Japan as they like. So we start that now. Okay, what else I have here? Okay, I think that was the last question. So do you have any question? Or if not, I give back talk to the MC.
All right. Thank you very much, Professor Sako, for
You're
those
welcome.
very informed and informing answers to the questions. We would also like to thank members who have raised questions. There is a latest question. What are the cultural programs or something? I'm sure you might want to respond to that?
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you very much for this question. It's a very important question. So now we are dealing with a lot of universities, and then also we start to deal with African universities. As I say, first we have what we call a shared campus program. So now we are dealing with 8 universities, University of Art and Culture, and then people can take part, on those kind of program because we do by module. So it's completely English program. So if you speak English, you can be in those kind of programs. And then we have another program, what we call, it's not properly our program, but it's a program that we are part of. That's the program which is called, what do you say, Humanity Across Borders. So I think some African universities are taking part on those kind of program. But we can receive also individual students if like they really have something to do here. And especially if we have exchange program with the universities, then we can receive 4 students per semester. That's also something possible. And then I think we are very, what do you say, much looking forward to have more exchange. We have it now, but I think we are encouraging a lot of African universities to have more exchange program with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much once again for responding to that question and making it very clear about how open your university is to exchange programs. And these are some of the benefits that emanate from an association like this as a platform for inter continental interaction and the sharing of performance of opportunities for for global development. And of course, it is also, one must say, another way by which the broader question of Africa-China relations in the 21st century is being addressed. It does appear there is still one more question. Would you want to attend to that as we still have like a few more minutes? We're doing really well with time.
Thank you very much. Yeah, you want me to respond that question quickly?
Yes, because we still have a few more minutes.
Okay, so for Japanese classes, what we try to do, we are now providing Japanese classes online for our students. So you have to be part of the school exchange system. And then we can provide you Japanese classes. We have a center for language support, which is concerning Japanese and English. So even if you are abroad, you can still taking those languages. So, but we from maybe next April, we want to provide those classes more broadly to all people who are interested in to have some Japanese knowledge before they come to Japan. So that's something new we are starting. So if you're interested, so please send us, what do you say, some messages. So please explain more about the fashion aspect. That means, I mean, the fashion design department or something like that. I think maybe the question is about the fashion design department. So we have a fashion design department, which is really based on manufacturing or designing. So we have a kind of like, I mean, design atelier, and also we are participating to all those fashion competitions. So people are using 2 ways in that fashion design department. So there is like kind of textile research, which is, I mean, researching about new material. And for example, like recently our student or our professors has been using fish skins to dye fish skins to make bags and then to make even some jackets, some clothes. So we are researching about what we call new materials, and that's that part of our like center of innovation. And then we are also dealing with what we call a kind of hybrid fashion system. So the fashion school is a kind of very, very practical school. If someone is interested in that, of course, that's a kind of like a, I mean, collaborative, but it has more social interaction programs. And thank you.
Thank you very much. And on that last note, which I find particularly interesting because having previously read about the Japanese cultural practice of skinning fish to make um, fabrics, you begin to see how that has survived into the 21st century and to be adopted in the advancement of technology. So, and for those who will be interested, that's one area into which we might be looking at. And I also think beyond that, it becomes another way, through which there could be an interaction between technological interaction between Japan and Africa and Nigeria especially. But beyond that, how do we then go back in Africa to those cultural practices of ours in art and all, to merge them, as it were, with contemporary technological innovations for the purpose of what I would call African self-affirmation. Professor Sako, would
Yes.
like to thank you once again.
Thank you very much. So I'm sharing now our site, the Seka University Center for Innovation in Traditional Industries. That's something now we are working with some schools in Africa, Burkina Faso and all those schools. So if you have time, you can go through this, school, what do you say, center. You can see also what we are doing as a research project in,
Absolutely.
traditional, yeah. So you can share it. Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
Thank you very much once again for sharing all this with us. Ladies and gentlemen, and on this note, I am pleased to inform you that we have come to the end of the first keynote lecture, which has been so exciting. Again, you'll agree with me because of the practical experiences that Professor Sako has also offered to share with us. We are ahead of time by about 5-6 minutes, which I think is very good for us. And so as we prepare to get started with the next item, which is the second keynote, I would like to quickly recognize the presence of Professor Remi Uriaku of the Department of English, University of Ibadan. Thank you, Prof, for joining us. We'll also like to recognize Professor Oyerunke Odunola of the University Odunola of the University College Hospital for being part of this conversation. So we are moving on, like I said earlier on, to the next keynote address that will be delivered by Professor Agbo. But before then, we shall have a citation read by Dr. Tolulope Ibikunle of the Department of Linguistics and African Languages, University of Ibadan. Dr. Ibikunle, you have the floor.
Thank you, sir. Good morning. It is a great privilege to read the citation of Commissioner for Human Resources, Science and Technology, African Union Commission, Her Excellency Professor Sarah Anyang Agbo. Her Excellency Professor Sarah Anyang Agbo was elected in 2017 as the new Commissioner for Human Resources, Science and Technology of the African Union Commission. Her Excellency, Professor Ayang Abo has over 20 years experience in the field of academia. She is a professor of African and Commonwealth literature. She was Fulbright Scholar in Residence to University of Scranton, Pennsylvania, USA. In 2004 to 2005, she was Inspector of Academic Affairs, number one, at the Ministry of Higher Education, Cameroon. Previously, she was the Deputy Vice Chancellor in charge of research, cooperation, and relations with the business world in the University of Bamenda, Northwest Region, Cameroon. She has written a number of academic books and publications to contribute to scholarship. Presently, Commissioner heads three divisions, namely Human Resource and Youth Development, Education, and Science and Technology, and several bodies. She provides guidance and vision to the HRST mandates on education, science, and technology, youth and human resources. Significantly, she ensures the coordination of AU policies and programs on education, human resources development matters, science and technology. In addition, she encourages and provides technical support to member states and RECs in the implementation of continental strategies, such as Continental Education Strategy for Africa, Science, Technology, Innovation Strategy for Africa, and the Continental Technical and Vocational Education Training Strategy. Furthermore, she plays key roles in promoting research and development in inter-Africa cooperation on education and training, encouraging youth empowerment and participation in the integration of continent. She has participated in many forums and conferences as keynote speaker, presenting the African Union Commission. She heads several technical bodies, scientific, technical, and research commission based in Nigeria. African Observatory of Science, Technology, and Innovation, based in Equatorial Guinea, Pan-African University, with rectorates in Yaoundé, with 5 institutes based in Kenya: Pan-African University Institute for Basic Sciences, Technology, and Innovation, Nigeria Pan-African University Institute for Life and Earth Science, including health and agriculture, Algeria, African University Institute for Water and Energy Sciences, including climate change, and Cameroon, Institute of Governance, Humanities, and Social Sciences, and South Africa to host the Pan-African University Institute for Space Sciences, also the Pan-African Cultural and E-University, Yohane, International Center for Girls and Women Education in Africa, based in Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso, the Pan-African Institute for Education for Development, African Observatory for Education. I present to you Her Excellency, Professor Sarah Ayang Agbo. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tolu. Um, Thank you very much, Dr. Ibikunle, for that brilliant rendition of the citation of Dr. Abo. So, ladies and gentlemen, and this is the way we welcome Dr. Sarah Abo to the floor of the second keynote. She is going to speak to us on the topic environment, technology, and COVID-19, the role of tertiary institutions in Africa. We had in the first keynote a wholly Japanese perspective, and yet which adumbrates with Africa. And now we're going to have another perspective from Africa, and of course that will extend its hands to Japan. Professor Abo, you have the floor. Professor Seragbo, you have the floor now. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are trying to sort out some pitches at the moment. And while the challenge is being addressed, we would quickly move on to the address of the distinguished guest, His Excellency Yutaka Kikuta, the Ambassador of Japan to Nigeria. Everybody is welcome to participate in listening to this welcome address as we get ready subsequently for Professor Agbo's keynote.
No sound.
You are on mute.
As a member of international community, Japan is doing her utmost grappling with this issue. Dr. Dwayne Aguru, President of African Association for Japanese Studies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great honor to receive an invitation to this conference again this year. You can imagine how much I was surprised and pleased to find that there is the Association for Japanese Studies in Africa. Through my attendance at the annual conferences twice in 2018 and 2019, I was very impressed with the efforts made by the conveners, guests, as well as the enthusiasm of the students. This year, I'd like to applaud the commitment and effort of Dr. Akuru and her team making this event possible despite circumstances with the COVID-19 pandemic arriving in the cultural form. When I was informed of the theme this year, that is to say, environment, technology, and COVID-19, I thought it was timely and most appropriate that we briefly touch upon Japan's experience and my thoughts on these issues. Today, we are facing daunting environmental challenges such as climate change, pollution of air, land, water, and ocean. As a member of international community, Japan is doing her utmost grappling with these issues because Japan has her own experience of suffering advancement of technology. During the rapid economic development in the 1960s, we had undergone so-called major pollution-related diseases. The Japanese government enacted the basic law of pollution control in 1960, which was upgraded to the basic environment law in 1993. Japanese people learned that sustainable development needs to be environment friendly. The threes have friendly technologies. People were so meticulous to protect clean, energy efficient society. For example, anybody who saw differentiated first process in Japan will feel how every one of Japanese keeps social rule of separating rubbish from recycling. Presently, Japan has leading clean energy technologies such as solar powers, electric vehicles, and much more. I believe it is worthy of African authorities to study, in addition to traditional Japanese culture, etc. So therefore, speaking about Nigeria's fight against the COVID-19, the Nigerian collective efforts somehow kept the pandemic under control, defying the odds. While commending the resilience of this country, I'd like to refer to a few examples of Japanese cooperation in the health sector in Poland, but not limited to. On August 25th, WHO declared Nigeria free of polio virus. This is a historic achievement made possible by long-time collective efforts of Nigerian people in all fronts and the international community. To this effect, the government of Japan provided a total amount of $182.4 million for the project, enabling a massive vaccination campaign over the years. In 2017 and 18, Japan donated 43 fully equipped medical ambulances. As a result, every 36 states, including an FCT, and Japanese ambulance. Now, with the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic, the services of these ambulances have become invaluable in sustaining and transporting COVID-19 patients to treatment centers. In March this year, I signed an incentive note to extend the grant aid approximately $18.2 million, a project strengthening the capacity of the laboratory network of Nigeria's Center for Disease Control. This was the second extended note, following the first one to strengthen the NCDC itself in fight against infectious disease. Japan will continue to work together with the Nigerian authorities for the advancement of health sector as well as socio-economic development in the era of post-war. Now, let me share with you some of my thoughts on future direction of the African Association for Japanese Studies. To say, why don't you get more involvement of Japan and Nigerian people? Since I came to this fascinating country, I have been kept surprised to find so many Nigerian people have the experience of staying in Japan. There are some alumni associations for students with government scholarship, JICA trainings, business trainings, ABE initiative recipients, besides academics. Among them, I observed some examples shining well and talents. In 2018, a Nigerian recipient of ABE initiative residing in Niigata, Japan, during his summer recess, voluntarily went all the way to Hiroshima to help people there who suffered from the heavy flood incident. Last year, a bright Nigerian student from Hokkaido University, who led his team at home to become the first team from Japan to win a linguistic summit in the highly acclaimed competition known as Harvard Prize for the development of studying at Saitama University found that return was warranted and humanly declined many rivers made huge waves in Nigeria. His Excellency President Buhari commended him, projecting the values of honesty, integrity, and contentment that should be hallmark of a people. There are so many young Nigerians who have merits in Nigeria and Japan. I think they can be potential supporters of the activities of the African Association for Japanese Studies. Embassy of Japan is happy to help AHAS to strengthen human network towards Japan and Nigeria. Likewise, I wish in the future that the African Association for Japanese Studies will be extended to other African nationals who have experienced Japan. To conclude, I want to extend my very best wishes for the success of this round of conference in this year of the triumphal jubilee of independence of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We also celebrate the 60th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between Japan and Nigeria, as well as the 60th anniversary of the opening of the Japanese embassy in Nigeria. I am confident that the relations between the two countries will continue to deepen further. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Your Excellency Kikuta, for that wonderful welcome address. We are all thrilled to feel welcome. We are also excited about the far-reaching issues raised and their implications for an association like this. We would also like to thank the ambassador for the support unflinching he's been giving this association, and we are not taking this for granted. We would like to thank you once again for the various ways in which the issues you have addressed have resonances for what we are doing at this conference today and tomorrow. And having said that, we would be returning to the second keynote address. Before then, we would like to recognize the presence of Professor Moral Mohamadu Dauda, who is the president of Niger Scholars in Japan. Welcome, Professor. And now we're back to the second keynote address to be delivered by Professor Sarah Agbo. Professor Agbo. So we would like to once again welcome Her Excellency Professor Sirambi Eno Ayang Agbo, who has just taken her seat. We cannot wait.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yes.
I stand on the existing protocol. I want to thank the organizers of this great reunion that we are having. I recognize the speakers who have spoken before me, and I recognize the distinguished participants. And on behalf of the chairperson of the African Union Commission, His Excellency, Dr. Musa Faki Mahamat, I bring you fraternal greetings from the African Union Commission. Your Excellencies, distinguished participants, and in 2020, the world was taken impromptu by the unprecedented novel type of coronavirus, COVID-19. As a result, countries, organizations, and individuals had to abruptly adjust to new ways of life. Lockdowns, curfews, travel restrictions, and many other measures were installed, Working from home has become our new norm. We need to start doing business as unusual, not the usual way of doing business. The socio-economic impacts of COVID-19. By the time the pandemic broke, digital revolution had not occurred to a level where it can support all the systems in some regions, particularly in Africa. Several things happened as a result because it is still vivid that internet bandwidths, like I'm suffering in joining this webinar, are not strong enough to support all the services that should go online. First is that most government services were suspended because they had not gone online, which led to paralysis of some services. Second, education was literally suspended because most of the educational systems had not adopted online learning as a main medium of learning. Africa is still caught up in whether to reopen schools or establish digital infrastructure and migrate the contents to virtual platforms. Third is that many businesses are closing down because they had not embraced the digital technologies of the 21st century. Notwithstanding, COVID-19 has had significant impact on the overall GDP. A study conducted by OECD showed that Africa's GDP growth in 2019 was 3.6%, which is too low to accelerate socio-economic and alleviate poverty. Before COVID-19 struck, African economic prospects were promising high turnovers, starting with Rwanda, Cote d'Ivoire, and Ethiopia at 77.5%. Global markets account for 88% of Africa's exports, mostly in oil, mineral resources, and agricultural commodities. Service disruption meant business breakdown in areas that Africa relied on to generate income. Many of the petty traders were most affected and hit, and many of our children fell under different forms of sexual abuses. The oil market reduced significantly. Exports slowed down due to the double factor of labor constraints and cargo freight services disruption. Job losses and rising costs of living are now imminent threat to many. It is now predicted that the crisis will significantly impact on the well-being of people, an increasing number of them that live below the poverty line. The vision of Agenda 2063, our blueprint of the Africa we want, is that vision of an integrated, prosperous, and peaceful Africa driven by its own competent and skilled citizens able to play in the global arena. But now, COVID has impacted greatly on Africa. Now, what are the environmental impacts of COVID-19? Excellencies, we cannot remain blind to the environmental effects that COVID-19 has brought. Urbanization had already reached rapid growth even before COVID-19 arose. Africa's urban population is forecasted to more than double by 2050, adding more than 800 million people to its cities, and that you can get from the World Economic Forum of 2020. A huge population still resides in informal settlements without basic hygiene, sanitation, and infrastructure. Now, with many people working from home in the cities, consumption of services such as power and food are more than double. Moreover, as washing hands in running water is one of the required methods of hygiene, there is no doubt that water consumption will rise significantly. Distinguished participants, the winning side is that due to restrictions in movements, fuel consumption has gone down, which means we are not burning fossils at the same rate as the business as usual case. It implies cleaner environment. Indeed, NASA satellite images showed 30% reduction in air pollution over some cities in the US due to the working from home base practices. Copernicus data, that is the European satellite images, showed nitrogen dioxide reduction of about 54% in cities like Paris and Madrid. So is COVID-19 giving us indicators on how to reduce emissions? Perhaps it is about time that we revise our work practices in order to mitigate emissions. My guess is as good as yours. What are the efforts to mitigate COVID-19 impacts? The good news is that, as the saying goes, necessity is the mother of invention. We have seen such a huge effort of technology-driven initiatives that have deployed their capabilities to respond to the situation. What is more encouraging are indigenous
Send her mail. Please.
for a full digital economy. Mobile payment services are coming in handy. Senegal, researchers developed an immune-based diagnosis test for COVID-19 available for only $1, while engineering students built a multifunctional medical robot to lessen the load on healthcare workers. Ghana has produced a low-cost COVID-19 antibody test currently undergoing regulatory reviews. Kenya converted existing factories to mass production with a production target of tens of millions. Other African countries quickly followed, with the countries with stronger manufacturing capabilities coming on top. Cameroon, through their Ministry of Scientific Research and Innovation, produced PPEs in producing wipes and sanitizers. Ghana is using Zeppelin drones to take samples to testing sites in a good example of reverse engineering. The United States is also using Zeppelin drones for similar tasks after successful pilot programs conducted in Africa. Rwanda has used locally assembled drones to increase awareness through in-flight public broadcasts and robots to screen and monitor COVID-19 patients. Countries have started to revisit their educational practices in order to embrace e-learning with innovative methods such as TV and radio education broadcasts. In our specialized technical committee on education, science, and technology, the ministers of education, science, and technology on April 20th, 30th, this 2020, decided that the way forward for us to have quality education and remote learning going in a very good way is to bridge the digital divide and to invest in green energy. Excellencies, these are positive indicators that while COVID-19 has cornered the economics, the society, and the environment, Africa is making the best out of it by pivoting and innovating different sectors. Indeed, African solutions for African challenges. What are the opportunities? Excellencies, despite the challenges that COVID-19 has brought, I see it as an opportunity for African countries to rebuild or enhance their socio-economic systems in using science and technology innovations, improvement on infrastructure, provision for water and sanitation, agriculture, services, digital revolution, etc. This is the aspirations of Agenda 2063, the Africa we want. I see COVID-19 as an opportunity to leapfrog in technology and attain full digital transition. Modern technology can help to overcome much of Africa's basic infrastructure gap. This is through a combination of smart metering, big data, geolocation, and the Internet of Things to establish smart grids and solo home systems, map sanitation facilities and water points, mitigate peak traffic, and manage waste. COVID-19 is also giving emphasis on structural transformation towards labor, absorptive growth of former sectors, and economic diversification away from reliance on commodities. Perhaps it is about time for Africa to transform technologically and infrastructurally. We must consolidate on science, technology, and innovation to achieve that transformation, that African dream that we want by 2063. And the journey begins today. To African policymakers, I have a few recommendations for you. One, investments in data sciences and modeling is inevitable. The need to invest in research cannot be overemphasized. The Science, Technology, Innovation Strategy for Africa 2024 recommends allocation of at least 1% of GDP to research and development. This recommendation is very timely for such a situation. R&D allocation is pivotal to build a data-driven knowledge ecosystem, including centers of excellence and regional laboratories, as well as investing in clinical trials, capacity, and industrial technology production. Yes, There is huge need to immediately invest in digital infrastructure and internet bandwidth. It becomes even more pronounced as we prepare for African continental free trade area with anticipated uprise in e-commerce services. The earlier we prepare such infrastructure, the better for our economies. Two, a time has come for us to go beyond disaster responses to preparedness through accurate early warning systems. African countries should be ready before any disaster, including pandemic events, happen. Africa should not be only responding to the events. This will reduce the negative impact on African citizens' life and the loss of goods. Three, regulatory frameworks are always needed to guide science and technology, and they should be informed from accurate data and models. Four, promotion of multi-helix partnerships to unlock innovative capacity across sectors and explore the use of emerging technologies to stimulate local production over imports is key. COVID-19 has taught us that the world can run out of supplies and only those with indigenous capabilities can rise to the occasion. Excellencies, COVID-19, above all, should be seen as an opportunity for Africa to innovate rapidly by investing immediately and hugely in science and technology, as well as creating common integrated regulatory frameworks and policies. I want to thank the organizers of this great forum, of this great webinar, and I want to thank Japan, the AAJS, for organizing this platform. All the esteemed participants, I want to say a very big thank you to you. And I believe that together we are stronger, but there is need for us to be conscious of what happens in our environment, because that is where we take the very air that we breathe. Science is a right for everyone, whether you are rich or poor, because it is only through science that we can survive the times. I want to thank you very much, and I want to tell you that what you are doing right there is in line with one of our aspirations of inclusivity and protecting the people of Africa, and the environment is important to the society. I thank you all for listening to me and for this time you've given me. And Masekinalo, as we say in Amharic, which means thank you very much. Eshe pupo, nago de, and yes, shokran, obrigado, merci beaucoup. I've used the 4 languages of the African Union, and definitely asante sana.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Albo. You forgot to include, how do you say thank you in Japan, in Japanese? Arigato. Anyway, we are adding that.
Arigato.
Arigato.
And my regards to
Yes.
Professor Donya. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, we thank you for the brilliant keynote. Ladies and gentlemen, it is extremely important that we also consider briefly some of the issues the ambassador has raised, the primacy of ensuring water supply, the necessity of innovating, especially in the area of deciding and possibly inventing African solutions for African challenges, and there is need now, in fact, more than ever before, for African governments and the private sector to consider further investment in technology and infrastructure. Data sciences and modeling can no longer be taken for granted. And as we do this in a new age that is defined by COVID-19, we will be able to survive our challenges and advance to the next level. The necessities brought about by COVID-19 may as well just be the way out of Africa's developmental quagmire. Once again, Professor Albo, we would like to thank you. I am sure a couple of questions will roll in for you, and we will be pleased to listen to your insights on those questions. Do we have some already? So Professor Agbo, we expect you to take some questions as we move along.
Okay then. I'm multitasking. If you don't see me, I'm going to speak in another one and I'll come back definitely. So if they give me the questions now, I can answer to some.
Okay, the questions will come to your chat room, so you can get ready because everybody hears me, and I'm sure they are beginning to put their questions through.
Okay then, thank you.
I understand the questions are rolling in already. Okay, from your privileged, I'm asking you a question directly from your privileged perspective as an officer with the African Union. Could you let us know, maybe from the perspective of policy formulation, what African-wide measures are being conceived to address the present challenges of the times at the OAU, at the AU rather?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, my brother. Um, the African Union Commission is the Secretariat of the African Union. It therefore means that we represent the member states in some of these policies and strategies that are the decisions of the member states themselves. These policies and decisions and strategies are the decisions of the member states themselves because it becomes a decision when it passes through the Executive Council and the Assembly. And for every sector that concerns our lives, whether politically, economically, agriculturally, etc. There are 8 departments in the African Union that see into that. For example, the environment that you are speaking about and the blue world, etc., are found under the Department of Agriculture and Economy and Rural Economy. And for each of these strategies to take place, there's what they call an STC. An STC is a specialized technical committee, and this committee is a ministerial committee that sits and decides. So the ministers of education will sit and decide, the ministers of economy will sit and decide, the ministers of education will sit and decide, the ministers of social affairs and culture, and the ones of environment, etc., will all sit and decide. And when they take these decisions, the ministers themselves take these decisions. It has to pass through the Executive Council, and the Executive Council is made up of the foreign affairs ministers that represent their countries, and then they will endorse it and forward it to the Assembly, and the Assembly is the head of states. The 55 member states will now accept it as a decision, and for it to be accepted as a decision is either we have a 3/4 vote, that is 37 countries voting for it, or a unanimous vote, that is the 55 countries accepting it. That is when they become policies and strategies for the African Union. And once it is a decision already endorsed and legalized, there are templates that come out on how to move forward. And what is expected is that member states should be able to do implementation. What is happening is that most often we have the strategies, we have the policies, but there is no implementation. We are not walking the talk. The question of climate change, the question of potable water, the question of hunger reduction can only be implemented by the member states themselves. And it means that they need to prioritize this in their various strategies and policies, or even in their budget programming, when they are programming their budget. So the African Union Commission, we sit as a secretariat to remind them that these decisions have been taken. And what we commissioners do is that we try, like we have the Commissioner for Political Affairs, the Commissioner for Agriculture and Rural Economy, the Commissioner for Infrastructure and Energy, the Commissioner for Social Affairs, the Commissioner for Trade and Industry, the Commissioner for Economic Affairs, and the Commissioner for Peace and Security. So what we all do is to look for partners that can help us, collaborate with us, partner with us to domesticate the vision and aspiration, objectives of Agenda 2063, which is the roadmap of the Africa we want in all these areas. And today, we are discussing about the environment, the society, climate change, etc. It is cross-cutting in the different departments of the African Union. And it is also cross-cutting. It is a multi-sectoral topic because it's cross-cutting in different ministries of different member states. But what we need to do is work the plan. We should go beyond rhetorics. Enough of the rhetorics. Let's implement, because when you do implementation, the people see it, they feel it. They can know what is happening, and then the environment can be what we want it to be. That is very, very important. Hello. Are we still together?
Yes, we are.
Yes. Is there any African approach? I'm seeing a question for African indigenous approach to combating COVID-19. Yes, there is. The African Scientific Research Innovation Council, which is called ASRIC, was established in was a decision of the African Union member states. And we actually launched in 1987, but we actually launched it in 2018. And we came up with 4 pillars. And one of them is the indigenous knowledge to working towards combating COVID-19. Now we want our traditional doctors to bring in their medications that have to pass through a clinical trial. And we can see how those concussions or their herbs can help mitigate COVID-19. So there's already that ongoing in ASRI. And you could see that many countries are already using indigenous methods, like the president of Madagascar has done such in using what they call artemisia, which is a herbal medication that they are using. So there are different countries are using different approaches. Some are even using different approaches to respond to these needs. Yes, I've responded to that. That's one question I saw that I want to express sincere gratitude to the African Association for Japan, AAJS, for giving us this opportunity to speak. And I'm happy with the map of Africa right behind Dr. Dunya Guru. Thank you very much. What strategies has AU put in place to ensure effective collaboration between the member states to achieve Agenda 2063? It is the member states themselves who have already taken these strategies. They are the formulators. And
can we make contributions?
So what we've done is to come up with different strategies and make experts to work on those strategies on how they can be implemented in the different member states. For PPE production, different ministries are already working on it. For example, Cameroon is using eucalyptus to produce wipes that can be used, and then sanitizers. PANVAC, the African Union PANVAC, is also producing PPEs. So that is already being done. Many countries are doing so much. Senegal is doing so much. Rwanda is doing so much. Many countries, they are doing so much across the board and across the different regions of Africa. I think I've responded to all the questions on board for me through the chat box. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. And I must say, those are really brilliant responses.
Thank you, my brother.
One other thing I must say is that our keynote speakers have been incredible time managers. Professor Sako set the tone, and you have built on it. We need that consistency, which is another thing COVID-19 has done for us, teaching us to stay strictly within our allocated time. What this means for us is that except there are other questions. We are really doing very well with time. But I guess there is one more question for you. Could you please quickly attend to it, and then we know how busy you are, and we'll let you go. Thank you, Your Excellency.
Okay, now.
Okay, I guess she has to leave now.
No, she has to take her award.
Yes.
Please don't go yet. You have an award to take. An award for you. Yeah. So we quickly moving on to the presentation of certificates, which will be led by Olufunke Brenda Ogunya. So please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, sir. Can you give me the, can I be the host so that I can share my screen?
You have it now.
Okay. Okay, so because of time and because really appreciate the presence of all the distinguished personalities. So I would like to go first with Professor Agbo because she had to go. Okay, so I want to thank everyone, all the participants, all the distinguished personalities that are present, all the professors, all the participants everywhere in the world. I want to appreciate you for coming. And now we will go to the presentation of awards. So first I will like to recognize, this is the award of recognition to Professor Sarah Mbieno Inyang Agbo. She is the African Union Commissioner for Human Resources, Science and Technology, African Union Commission, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. She's one of our keynote speakers that just spoken, and I'm very sure we've learned something from the presentation. So this is on behalf of the African Association of Japanese Studies in Nigeria. We want to say thank you for coming, and this is for you, ma'am. Professor Agbo, I don't know if you have something to say. Okay, next would be for Ambassador Yutaka Kikuta. I'm sure we also learned from his presentation. And this is on behalf of African Association for Japanese Studies. This is to say thank you for coming and for honoring our invitation. And we really appreciate you for everything. And we've really learned from your presentation. I don't know if you have one or two things to say, sir.
So let's move on to the next.
Okay. And the last one, the award of recognition to President Usubi Sako. He is the president of Kyoto Seika University in Japan. He is the first keynote speaker. And on behalf of the African Association for Japanese Studies in Nigeria, we're presenting this to you to say thank you for honoring our invitation and that we've learned so much from your presentation. Thank you very much, sir, for coming.
Thank you very much. I'm very honored, and I hope the association will have much success in these 2 days sessions. And I'm always available for whatever you want to do in Japan, and also for more collaboration between your association and the institutions in Japan, especially with the consortium of universities in Kyoto. Thank you very much. Honor.
All right, thank you very much, Professor Agbo is now available to receive her award.
Okay.
Thank you.
Um, just hold on a second, please. Can you see my screen?
Hold on, please. You have the right to share it.
Okay,
Please.
sir.
Great.
Okay.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Let me take the picture. Thank you. Let me take my picture of my award. Whoa, 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 whoa. Isn't this? Please, please. Hey. Why is my technician helping me? Oh, Sarah. Can somebody take that picture and forward to me by WhatsApp? Please.
Oh, definitely.
Okay. Merci beaucoup.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. Please, thank you very much. Come on, take this picture. Okay, it's gone. Don't worry. I took some. Yeah. You want to take me like that?
Right.
Yeah,
So
take,
please, you could move ahead.
even this one.
Olufunke Brinda.
Taking us like. Okay.
Yes, sir. So that is the last one.
Okay. Great. So there shall be a couple of announcements in regard to the opening ceremony. I now call on Mr. Shegun Orimakinde to take the floor.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. We are happy that today has been a success already. The conference today, as you have all known, is groundbreaking, and we are very happy that it has come to a worthy end. And just some quick announcements before we close. Um, First, tomorrow we are going to start by 10 a.m. as it's on the program that has been circulated. And some of the events, just to intimate you about some of the events for tomorrow again and how it's going to be done. Okay, so we are going to have a roundtable. The roundtable is going to be about the expected new world, because as you all know that a lot of things are evolving in the present world about the COVID-19. We are now in a new world. The world we used to know some months back is not going to come back. So the expected new world. Then after that, we are going to have the panel sessions. So we're going to have the first set of panels 1 to 5 is going to run concurrently. That is, from the roundtable where we have a general assembly, we are going to break into different panel sessions. So we implore you to check the program and know the panel to which you belong, and also know the chair of your panel so that you can have your slides sent in so that the presentation can be done appropriately. So we are going to break into different sessions. Some of the things I want you to note is that during the